and gentlemen, welcome to the esteemed center stage with Global Thought Leaders, a Right Source Global initiative. I'm Ajuna Sharawat, Chief Anchor and Editor at Global Thought Leaders, and I will be your host today during this center stage interview. Global Thought Leaders is a platform where industry titans can share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices with one another and future leaders. We hope to bring together this global community of distinguished individuals by conducting these center stage interviews. Great leadership lessons benefit everyone when we can identify, nurture, and apply tricks of the trade that have proven to be successful formulae for many. In a nutshell, we seek to distill these industry leaders' multi-decadal learnings and establish a knowledge-sharing community. Ruchira Garg is one such industry expert who has joined us on center stage today. Ruchira is a results-driven, seasoned HR leader with a diverse background in strategic and multi-locational operational HR. She has led numerous change initiatives and has a proven record of strategizing, delivering, and executing as part of organizations going through major transformations. She has 2 decades of industry experience with renowned technology brands. She has been a speaker in several corporate and management events. She's also an active blogger and shares her thoughts on various professional forums and leading HR journals. Welcome, Ruchira, to Center Stage.
Thank you, Arjuna. It's great to meet you today and be here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to our stage. Could you tell us a little bit about how you set the people agenda differently for each region and how you mold your leadership style accordingly as someone who works across the APJ region?
Sure. I think as part of larger organizations which have multi-regional presence, it's important to have a combination of global consistency as well as regional nuances. Because for the kind of operations that we run in larger organizations, it's important to have, I would say, a 70-30 kind of a principle where 70% of the work, and it's not hard and fast, it could be 80-20 or sometimes even lesser, is to look at processes and programs at scale, because that's how we can, if we have consistency, then we can build processes that are repeatable, the processes which can be automated and which can be scalable over a longer period of time. It reduces the person dependency. On the other hand, it's important to also keep in view the regional nuances as a combination of both the regulatory requirements in that particular region. So while there may be a global process or a practice that can be implemented everywhere else, there might be one particular country that has a regional regulatory requirement that is contradictory to that practice. And hence we have to go and adhere to the regional the statutory requirement first. It's also important to have a listening style and a problem-solving mindset when working with multiple regions, because it's important to understand where they are coming from, not just take things at face value in terms of understand whether it's legacy practice or there is truly a genuine need. Like there might be a cultural requirement, or there might be an industry practice, for getting better talent, or there might be a regulatory requirement, which is why there are customized asks coming from specific regions. It is important to listen in, and that's the strategy I use to deep dive and understand where they are coming from, and accordingly customize our solutions. So it doesn't mean that we prepare personalized solutions to the audience, but we can customize it or help manage the change in a way that resonates the most with them. So that's typically the strategy I use when looking at multiple regions.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful. Who have been your professional role models? What are 2 key lessons you've learned from them that you have kept with you?
I think, the first manager that we work with creates a big impression in terms of what kind of professionals we turn out to be. And I was blessed to have a great first manager when I started my career, few levels over me, not just one level above. He was a director at that point of time. And I think I had a lot of learnings from him in terms of the results orientation, the problem solving mindset that I continue to take along with me through my career. I've also had the privilege of working with some very astute business leaders, and from whom I've learned as an HR business partner a lot about the business that we deliver. The two things which I've probably taken from both these leaders is one, like do not take things as it is, challenge the status quo. So, I've been part of organizations which have been innovation driven, which have constantly been trying to create new products. And in that kind of a culture, we cannot continue to deliver new things if we keep doing things the same way. So we can't get different results by doing the same things all the time. And that's the reason why it's important to challenge the status quo and not be hesitant to have a voice on the table and be the one to raise the hand and say, hey, I have a question to ask, right? So that's helped me a lot in carving the professional that I've been. The other piece I've learned is around understanding the problem that the business is trying to solve for the client. If, as an HR professional, I understand the problem that the business is trying to solve for the client, it helps me understand where they're coming from when they raise any concerns or when they want any new solutions from us, and then customize the solution or help adapt the solution to their specific needs. It helps me talk their language, and which has always helped me build better relations with the business and also get work done across the board.
Understand the problem the business is trying to solve. Big learning. What are the key personality traits that you have cultivated and imbibed over the years that you believe have helped you in your leadership roles?
Well, quite a few personality traits, but I'll speak about a few. The first one is related to that learning about challenging the status quo. Similarly, as a personality trait, I don't take things at face value, whether it is information being provided or it is making impressions about people that I interact with. I try to get deeper into what is being shared. Why is it being, presented the way it is? And that has unraveled a lot of opportunities for improvement for me and my team and for the organizations that we work with. The other personality trait that I have tried to use is being very structured. So that is inherent to me. It comes to me naturally to apply a lot of structure in the way I do my work. But as a leader, how it has helped me is that when we grow as leaders, we face a lot of ambiguity at our level, but our teams look for a lot of clarity from us. And if we are structured, I can help break the problem, or I can help break the what's happening across the board into smaller bites for them to understand more clearly and be able to then action it out versus just keep it all fuzzy at the top. I apply a lot is the ability to change my style along with the audience. So whether it's my personality style or my leadership style, I've been with organizations where I've had to set teams from scratch, or I've also been in environments where I've inherited teams which have already matured in their space. I choose my leadership style based on the maturity of the audience. So if it's an environment which is very mature, I would apply a more coaching and participative style. But when it comes to, let's say, an organization where work had to be done as of yesterday, and we are starting things from scratch, and there is no benchmark or no previous precedent to fall back on, then I might use a directive and a visionary style. So I use different tools from my toolkit based on what's the audience I'm dealing with, and those three have really stood by me.
Your repertoire is so big. You have so much of traveling experience also. You've been to so many places, national, internationally, and you also blog about it. We would like to later on know something more about that as well. As someone who has a strong educational background in the subject and completed various certifications, what are the policies that you have devised and implemented that you believe have made an impact in the field of human resources?
Well, I think the field of human resources is really vast, and all of us have a lot to still learn. It's still a lot of way to go to really change or make a big impact to the field. But I'll speak to the organizations that I've been with and what impact I have created in terms of those organizations. So I've been with small companies, and I've also been with large companies that have had not very mature HR teams, HR processes and systems, and I have set them up from scratch and literally bring them up to a level of maturity where when I've left them, people have been able to take it and run with it. Things have not fallen if individuals have left because there's been a predictability created in the system on how things run. Right from in some companies where there were no policies, setting up policies from basics to bringing up to a level of maturity where the same organization which had nothing in place from a policy and practice perspective to having fully automated employee engagement survey, employee appraisal system, all of that being fully automated was the level of maturity I brought it to. I've also been in organizations like Avaya where I played a big role in terms of bringing in a lot of functions which were outsourced, and as a result, in the lack of business context, they were creating more cost and more liabilities to the organization, and then bringing it and doing the workforce planning accordingly to design where those functions would ideally land. So it helped reduce the cost for the organization. Some marquee initiatives I've worked on is you have developed leadership development frameworks for organizations, and especially in one of the organizations that I was with, which was Sapient, I developed a leadership development framework which had multiple tools for leaders, senior leaders, depending on what was the specific area where they were looking to develop. And so whether it was a combination of job rotation, hot seating, putting them through a larger training 3-year rotational plan, or giving them something like, when they were succession planning, all these were tools that we used, even executive coaching for them. Sometimes when we look at leaders and just put them in training programs, it doesn't resonate for them. They have themselves a lot more experience than the trainers, and we have to look for different development interventions. So this was pretty much like a development marketplace for leaders to go and choose what initiative they would like to pursue because it resonated more with the problem or the development problem they were trying to solve for themselves. The other initiative that I've been part of, while I did not lead it, but I think it's been a very transformational initiative in the field of HR, is moving away from the bell curve. And when I was in Adobe, they were implementing this solution that it was pretty nascent in its stage. And I have been part of the implementation of not having annual performance appraisals, ratings, and rankings, and moving to a more ongoing development and feedback conversation, which is focused more on enhancing potential versus just boxing people into a certain rating. So I think that has been a very forward-looking initiative, and many organizations, especially in the technology industry, are now moving towards that and reaping great benefits out of it. So these are some of the initiatives that I've really been part of. I think personally, the one I've been most proud of is working on a key talent management program where we differentiated rewards for key talent and had some kind of a policy customization for the core group of key talent formed. And this helped really not just in retaining them, but also helped it make more aspirational for others to want to be part of, be key talent in the organization and perform better. I think that was really very new in the industry at that time. Not many companies have gone there. It was a small organization that I did it with, but I thought it was very, very forward looking.
It's really so enriching to learn and listen to your vast experience. So we have more questions. We would also like to know top 3 challenges you faced in the complete journey and how you overcame them.
Some of the challenges are just larger across the industry, may not be just my personal challenges, but the first one being that, for a lot of companies, they don't think of HR being or policies and practices being as robust when they are smaller in size. Like when they are less than 2,000 people, they don't think of establishing them. It's only when they get to a strength of, say, 5,000 people is when they start thinking, oh, now we need better policies, practices, and systems. And by that time, it's too late because it's very difficult to make 1,000 people take that one step versus doing it earlier on when we can take 100 steps much faster. And that's been the challenge in some companies where, which have been very big. I've worked with them, but, I've had to go back and set up some basics in place. And putting that up for a much larger workforce has been challenging, but it has been done. It has just taken a lot more of change management. It has taken a lot more of alignment with different stakeholders and a lot more time than it usually would. The other challenge has been, and perennially, it's about HR having a seat on the table. So as an HR business partner being accepted, I've moved a lot of businesses and organizations that I've been with. I've supported different businesses. I've never stayed with the same leader for entire duration in the organization. But how do you get accepted, and how do they kind of start looking at HR business partner as a valued partner versus somebody that they think would do administrative work for them? Has been a challenge. And for me, I have actually focused on understanding, again, going back to, what's the core problem they are trying to solve for the client, and so what is their business. If I understood that, I was able to articulate things better to them in their language, and that helped me build stronger relationships. The other piece I also used was, it was easy to say no, I won't do this, but it was important to also show them what else could I do which would add value to them. So if they would mostly come and tell me that this is, we want you to do this work for us, we want you to just do some administrative thing, we want you to just go meet all our people and get some feedback, that kind of stuff, which was essentially something that managers themselves should do. But what I would do is, okay, I'm not going to do this because I think managers should do this. But in the interim, I would come back with other programs where I would play a more strategic role and help them think through and say, I'm going to partner with you on this. We're going to do something new here. And that's when they would start seeing the value, and they would say, okay, now this is somebody who really understands and is willing to partner with us to drive some innovation in our team. That was the second challenge. I think the third challenge pretty much was just, how do you continue to be relevant? I have 2 decades of experience, and many a times as we grow in our careers, we interact with leaders who have also as much experience. And so it's a little bit like all the solutions coming from them are from their time. But if we just look at the workforce around us and the people that we work with, there is a generational difference. There are very different needs that are coming from our employees now. So, to continue to be relevant and to understand the needs of the larger workforce, it's important to be grounded, to be able to not just limit yourself to a few set of people, but be able to also interact across the board, be part of larger communities, and maybe you touched upon that in terms of traveling or other things that I do. Some of those things are also more consciously done, not just as a time pass, but actually to give me more perspectives across different genres of people so that I can understand what's the latest and what's going on and what do people really look for now. What matters to the latest of the software engineer who's coming to us from college now after 2 decades than when I was graduating. So these are a few challenges that I've faced and how I've overcome them.
That is very interesting. Actually, here, like to ask you more about your traveling experiences. You've been to so many different places. You have experienced so much, like different cultures, different food preparing. I've gone through your blogging site and I was really impressed. So, could you just throw some light on that experience as well?
Well, it's twofold. One, to gather experience for myself. Like traveling helps open the mind, and meeting new people or in different genres of people really helps understand different perspectives. I think that has, your first question to me around how do you handle multiple regions is because when you have more exposure to people who are not the same, it helps listen better, it helps understand better. And some of the personal experiences I've had with them help me bring it into the professional conversations also, because I've either been to that place or even if I've not been to that place, somewhere similar. And so I've seen how they live and how they are outside the workplace, helps me understand them better. The other aspect is also in terms of pay forward. So it's like we always talk about, we all want something from the world around us, but what are we willing to give back? And so for me, like you mentioned, blogging is because when I look for a lot of information as a traveler or for anything, like today, for everything we go and do Google search first. And we want to know, even if we are HR policies and programs, we would first look for practices in other companies. But if nobody is sharing, then how will we know about it? So I think it's a pay forward that, when I experience something, I like to come back and I want to share it with others. And that's how I got into blogging. And it's not just about travel blogging. I actually blog about a lot of issues that I feel about, many related to diversity, many related to other HR practices, many related to culture. So that's my pay forward.
That's so wonderful. And it's really commendable how you've actually managed always your business trips with leisure and taken out time and actually contributed like this by blogging. And now, as you are a corporate governance expert, we would like to know your perspective and the benefits of having an HR leader on the board.
Truly speaking, a lot of decisions that are getting taken in organizations are very people decisions, right? And it all kind of comes back to like when we're thinking about we need to open a new office in certain places, or we need to move towards a different employment type, or let's just go ahead and hire X number of people, or hire contractors, or let people work from wherever they want to work from. These are the new buzzwords that we're hearing currently. All of that comes back to maybe understanding where is the skill, where is the talent that we are looking for, what's our workforce plan, is it an interim need, it's a long-term need, is the location the right location. Like I'll give you an example where an organization ended up creating their headquarter in a place where the leader who was setting up that office was based in that city, and so that's where the organization ended up creating their headquarters. But for the skill that they were looking for, that was not a talent hub. So they didn't get, when it came to recruitment, they would not find the talent, and they eventually had to open offices in other locations then. So was it the most optimal decision for the organization to take? No. And I think these are the places where having an HR leader on the board can really help question, challenge the status quo, asking like what's the why of this decision, and help navigate the organization in the right direction, is where I see the value of HR. The other aspect is the organizational and dynamics and philosophy play a big role in the way decisions get taken, right? So if it's a startup organization, a lot of focus is on cost and liability, or actually more of cost at that point of time. And so decisions, you can't just be very benevolent with your benefits and just can't keep giving everybody double or triple the salary. But most of the times, people end up doing that because they don't think about it. That's not their core area of expertise in terms of recruitment or in terms of compensation. So they just go and give whatever people are asking for to retain them. When it's a more mature organization, they are more focused around their brand, their liability. What are the perceptions from an employment brand perspective? And so I think these are all the areas where HR specializes in, and having an HR leader on board can really help improve. I would not say lead all the discussions because there are a lot of other people on the boards as well who are equally competent, but it can help definitely bring a more diverse point of view into the board discussions.
We have been building the Global Thought Leaders community for cross-pollination of knowledge and a community of independent directors for having a better corporate governance in the country. What are your thoughts about these initiatives?
I think it's a wonderful initiative because there are, this is one, it's a very structured initiative to help people develop the skill in our country. And as we've all learned through this journey together, that most organizations are like family run, or they would just go and pick somebody on the board that they know. In some cases, while that's the most easily available person or most accessible person for them and makes it easier to proceed with decisions, but are those always the best decisions? That might not be true. So, which is the reason to have more capable, more people who understand how the responsibilities of the board, people who understand the nuances of corporate governance. It's important to have a board of such people versus just my second relative out there. And I'm very glad that initiatives like this are helping build that capability across the organization, also helping bring in a lot more people across different career stages, because in the past, the perception has been board members are folks who have retired, from their current work, and that's fair. But it also brings back to the relevance of the board. If you only look for folks who are retired or who've been there for like 40 years in the industry, and we're talking about a millennial startup, you need board members who can also understand what the current business is and what's the audience that they're catering to. So I think initiatives like this is helping in bring multi-generational board of directors. It's helping build more structured capability in the board. And overall, I think it's just up-leveling the level of governance in the country if we continue to provide the such skilled board members.
It's been a very enlightening conversation, a fantastic conversation with you. I'm confident that your insights will inspire the next generation of leaders We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you for joining us today on the call with Global Thought Leaders, Ruchira. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ajna. You have a good day too. And thank you, listeners, for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you.